Welcome to the channel, everyone. On this channel, we share stories of average Joes around the world and their not so average issues. Let's start with the first story. Am I in the wrong for telling my boyfriend to take back the car he surprised me with? I'm 26 female and my boyfriend is 33 male. He surprised me with a brand new car about a month ago. I was super happy and very appreciative. My old car was working fine, but it was outdated. But I never complained about it. Me and my boyfriend never really argue, but these last few days have been bad. I assume it's because he's stressed at work, so he comes home and drinks, and that makes him not physical, but just very loud and obnoxious. Everything he says, it's always, I just bought you a brand new car, and you should be worshipping me. He has been saying that a lot. As I was trying to sell my old car, I had a couple of people interested and they decided they didn't want it. My boyfriend was furious. He acted like it was my fault they didn't want it, and he said whatever money I get from the car needs to go to him, which is logical, but I never asked him to buy me a car. I never complained about my old one. I was tired of rude comments he would make, so I told him the only reason he bought me the car is so he can have something over my head, and I told him to sell the new car or return it. He called me an ungrateful lady. I never raised my voice to him, ever. This whole thing is frustrating. He hasn't spoken to me all day. So, am I in the wrong for this? Update. Last night I talked to him. Physically I'm okay, but mentally I'm not. I told him how much his words hurt me. He got very upset. I've never been one to take any bullshit from any man, so he started calling me names, belittling me, and his body language acted like he wanted to hit me. I got up, looked him in the eye, and didn't say a word. I got a few of my things put in my old car, and since the new car is in my name, I took off the license plate and left the car. I texted him later and told him to plan on meeting me at the DMV this week to sign it back over. I went to my friend's house after it all went down. He started texting me all kinds of things, saying he knew where I was because he put a tracker on my old car a few years ago. This whole situation blindsided me, and I will be going to the police if this psycho behavior from him continues. I can't believe I was with this dude for almost 5 years and nothing like this has ever happened before. I'm shocked and heartbroken. We were supposed to get married. Update 2. I went to the sheriff's department and fortunately there wasn't a tracker on my car. Not really sure what made him say that. Probably just to try and scare me. I moved back in with my mom and dad. My dad and my 3 brothers went to the house and got all of my things while he was at work. He has been messaging me all week, saying the most awful things nobody wants to hear. Last year, I went through a heartbreaking miscarriage and he started texting me telling me it was my fault. Then, a few messages later, he would say he missed me and can't live without me. The final message he sent, he said, "Your dead baby is more grateful than you are." That's when I blocked him on everything. The icing on the cake is he has been cheating on me for the past 7 months with my very close cousin. As for the car, my brother got it and he's selling it for me. I'm still stuck on what I should do with the money when I sell it. I'm thinking about mailing X the money because I don't want a dime that was his. I'm still broken and confused, but I'm so grateful for the people that checked up on me, who knew that a whole bunch of internet strangers would be so caring. Judgments. My suggestion before you get too deep, give the car back and the keys back, and leave the guy who would verbally abuse you and hold something like that over your head. He's not your parent. He isn't a sibling, and if he ever says he can't control the way he treats you, remind him that he doesn't treat the grocery store clerk like that. He doesn't treat his boss like that. He doesn't treat his clients like that. He does not treat the banker like that. He does not treat the cops like that. So, he can't control it. He just chooses not to be with you. You still have your old car. It runs pretty decent. Hang on to it and make your own way. You don't need that bullshit. You're not wrong. This is a manipulation tactic. He gave you the car to obligate you and now is using it as an example of how generous he is and how ungrateful you are. The silent treatment, beyond a short cooling off period after an argument, is a control tactic. He's not speaking to you in order to guilt you into doing or behaving how he wants and to punish you so you will think twice next time you try to argue with him. This kind of thing doesn't end. This I know from experience. It isn't stress, it's just who he is. You should pack up your old car and leave. Am I in the wrong for yelling at my mother over a potential divorce? I am a 33-year-old female who has been married to my husband, 35 male, for about 7 years now. For context, the first time we met was when I was a junior in high school and he was a senior. We both had never dated anyone before and I took our relationship to be a very what happens happens attitude. Even though he went to college before me, we made it work and I also ended up moving to a different state for college. As soon he was done with his bachelor's, he moved out to be with me while I finished school. I always thought him and my family got along fine, but I always got the occasional, "I'm surprised you two are still together" from my mother, in which I usually responded with, "Well, it's working out." And right before I got married, she asked me if I was really sure about marrying him, since I've never been with anyone else. And I told her yes, we had been together for 10 years at that point, give or take. She even made a comment about how she was surprised we lasted in her wedding toast. I wasn't super happy, but I let it go since we were supposed to be celebrating. Here is the issue. I guess my husband and I's relationship fell into a rut. We've had no issues, but now it feels like we're more of roommates than a couple. I won't get into the whole discussion, but we sat down and talked about it, and one of the things we both mentioned was possibly divorcing. It was devastating to talk about because we still love each other and we're still happy, but we aren't sure if it's the right kind of happiness. We decided not to jump ship on anything yet, but we'll talk about it more. I flew out to see my parents while he dealt with a work emergency, and I talked to my parents about what's been going on, hoping for some advice and maybe see if that's just what being married is like. As soon as I mentioned we were considering divorce, my mom said, "I told you that this relationship wasn't going to work out." I don't know, but at that moment I lost it. I yelled at her about how she couldn't be supportive for even a second without criticizing and disagreeing with everything I did in life, and that for 17 years we did pretty good. I also mentioned everything she said at the wedding, in which she yelled at me about how I've always been a stubborn girl and that I always have to be the right one. And the only reason I'm upset right now is because things are going her way instead of mine. My response to that was, "Well, clearly my need to be right all the time comes from you, since you've spent the last 17 years trying to prove yourself to be right that my relationship is going to fail." I stormed out after my dad, who didn't say much during it, informed me that I shouldn't speak to my mom like that, and she's just looking out for me. I flew home and basically saw my husband and just broke down. He ordered takeout, and we just sat on the couch and cried about everything. My parents aren't speaking to me until I apologize, but my husband says I was in the right. I'm now not sure if I was so, people. Am I at fault? Judgments. I would say a definite, very hard, not the a-hole. I did just do a quick skim through, but you have no reason to accept that kind of treatment from anyone, especially when you're struggling with a massive decision like that. I want to add, divorce isn't a bad thing, especially if it's a mutual agreement. I do believe you and your partner should try to salvage what you've got, because marriage isn't always romance and oftentimes you end up with your best friend. It doesn't need to be heavily sexual, but a mutual respect. In the end, I don't have the details, but I hope you both make the best decision that benefits you both. Your mother just wants to say, I told you so, which is extremely toxic behavior, and it is not easy to keep a relationship healthy when you feel an important person in your life doesn't respect it, which in turn makes you feel disrespected. The fact that you made it so long into your relationship is a win in itself, and you and your partner, while in a rut, clearly still respect and value each other if he is offering you support with this mother situation. Am I the a-hole for refusing to forgive and forget my brother extorting me? My wife and I built a custom home. My brother and his girlfriend were being evicted from their rental because the owner was selling. After talking it over, my wife and I decided to offer them a space in our home. We built a separate apartment, done to the standard of our own space. A year after that, we had a house fire. We lost everything. Their apartment was undamaged, and they were only out 2 weeks until we could get hydro and water hooked back up. We rented a farm. Wife and I and 3 kids really enjoyed living on the farm. Kids and wife didn't want to move back to the house after the fire because of trauma. We considered buying the farm as it was for sale at that time. We talked to brother and girlfriend about building a house on the acreage for them on their own dime, explained our feelings on farm life and the effects of the house fire on the kids. Brother was into the idea, so my wife and I bought 100 sheep and chickens and started negotiations with the owner. We needed to get a start on farming, so we had an additional income when we took possession. Sale did not go through because of deficiencies with the property. At this point, it was 9 months after the fire, and we would not start rebuilding for another month as insurance was dragging their feet. November came, and we started the rebuild. We found a small homestead the same month and ticked all our boxes. Unfortunately, we would be unable to do anything for them at the new house. We told them we were selling in March when the rebuild was complete. Things got heated between him and my wife the following day after we bought the new house. My wife told them they've 60 days to get the duck out of my house. Yes, she was wrong to lash out. Brother and girlfriend were somewhat drunk and slightly belligerent. He got a paralegal and said he knew his rights. We got counsel from a lawyer and sent proper paperwork. Previously, my wife and I agreed on giving them $5,000 to leave. At the meeting, I made that offer and to give them until May to be out. Said we'd talk in a week. We came and we sat down again. He told me he needed $15,000 to land on his feet, or else he wasn't leaving and would fight any eviction notice. He also wanted the money up front and it all in writing. We sold the house in March and politely told them to pound sand. $5,000, take it or leave it. And if they made our house sale fall through, I'd be suing them for damages. 1 month closing in June, they find a place and sign off on everything. I gave them their deposit and extra totaling $5,000. They stiffened me on my last month's rent. A year later, my dad keeps trying to set up family dinners even though he knows how he feels and that we want nothing to do with them. Am I wrong for not wanting to just forgive and forget? He does have a history of taking advantage of me and my immediate family. Judgments. Oh, hell no. You looked after your brother in his time of need, despite having a family of your own to think about. You tried to accommodate them as you moved on, and it wasn't your fault that fell through. And then he starts playing choosy beggars? He's lucky you helped him out in the first place. I assume he was paying rent at least. Your dad is well-meaning, but he needs to understand this is something that happened between 2 grown-ups, not 2 kids. And it wasn't a fight over who got to play ball next. It was a fight where you had to get lawyers involved. In any case, no, you're not in the wrong. We hope you enjoyed today's stories. Use the comment section below to state your verdict on the situation, express your opinions, and share some valuable advice.